Welcome to the Living in Biological Harmony podcast, where we explore the deeper meaning behind symptoms, relationships, emotions, and healing through Germanic healing knowledge, energy, and natural living for women and their families. This is a space to replace fear with truth, calm, and a more biologically aligned life. Welcome and thank you for being here. Today I want to talk about the fourth biological law because this one changes so much in the way we understand microbes, bacteria, the microbiome, and the role they play in the body. For many years I worked as a gut and psychology coach. I studied under Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride and privately with Dr. Becky, so I spent a lot of time focused on digestion, the microbiome, and the healing of the gut using high fats and protein stocks, which is still a big part of my diet. Even before I began looking deeply into Germanic healing knowledge, I already knew how important the microbiome was. At the same time, I can honestly say that my understanding of this was once very different. When I was practicing GAPS, I became overly focused on killing what I believed were the bad guys. I was trying to remove bad bacteria, parasites, fungi, and candida. Always cleansing, always clearing, always trying to get rid of something. I was even doing coffee enemas obsessively, believing I was helping my body. But looking back, I can see that what I was probably creating was more of an imbalance and not resolving the initial conflict. What shifted for me over time was the realization that there are no bad guys in the way I once believed our bodies are not designed to harm us. And this I will explain in the quintessence, the fifth biological law. If something is present in large amounts, there is a reason for it. From this perspective, the body is not filled with enemies that need to be hunted down and destroyed. It is responding intelligently, and if the microbes are there, they may be there because the body is running multiple conflicts and healing programs, and those microbes are serving a purpose within that process of breaking down the conflict, breaking down the material. That realization made so much sense to me. It reduced the fear, the obsession, and the urge to constantly fight the body. Instead of asking how to kill something off, I began to become more interested in asking why it was there, what was the body doing, and what was the purpose it might be serving. This is one of the reasons the fourth biological law feels so powerful. From a Germanic healing knowledge perspective, microbes are not the enemy. They are part of nature, part of the body's design, playing a meaningful role during the healing phase of the biological program. The same role is played in nature. To really understand this, it helps us to go back to the first biological law. Every meaningful biological special program begins with the conflict shock, something unexpected, acute, isolating, and experienced in a particular way by the psyche. The body then enters the conflict active phase, and once the conflict is resolved, it moves into the healing. By the time we begin looking at the fourth biological law, we are not only asking what the symptom is, but also how the microbes are involved in the restoration or the breakdown of the tissue. In this framework, they are seen as the helpers in the healing process, assisting the body according to the tissue involved and the phase the person is in. This way of seeing things is so different from the culture we live in now because people have become deeply afraid of microbes, deeply afraid of dirt, and often obsessed with cleanliness and sterility. Of course, basic hygiene matters, and I'm not saying otherwise, but there is a very big difference between healthy cleanliness and living in such an overly sterile way that we're cut off from the microbial world we were designed to live alongside. I feel this is especially strongly when it comes to children. Ever since my children were little, I encouraged them to be outside, playing in the mud, running barefoot, to be in real contact with the earth. I never stopped them from exploring the world in the natural, childlike way, even putting things in their mouth, which so many parents are taught to fear. They were surrounded by farm animals, dirt, nature, and all the beautiful messiness of real life. Looking back, I feel that this mattered so much. Children are not meant to grow up in a sterile box. They're meant to touch life, to be in the relationship with the earth, with animals and with seasons, with the microbial world around them. That kind of exposure helps build resilience, shapes the terrain, supports the microbiome, and strengthens the body's natural intelligence. It matters for the nervous system, for the gut, and for the child's whole sense of connection with the living world. There is something deeply right about seeing children with muddy feet, dirty hands, sun on their skin, and the wind in their hair out with animals, and moving through nature. It's grounding, regulating, and life-giving. When you compare that to the modern environment with the closed houses, screens, disinfectants, processed foods, constant sanitizing, and fear of germs, it becomes easier to understand why so many people are struggling. The body becomes more fragile, more reactive, and the children are sensitive and dysregulated. For me, that is where my earlier work with the gut and this deeper understanding through GHK began to meet. Before, my approach was still carried a subtle mindset of fighting and eliminating. Now it feels much more like listening, understanding, and supporting. The microbiome is not something to constantly attack. It is something to respect and nurture. If there is an overgrowth of something, a tumor, cell growth, then from this perspective, the terrain matters, the phase matters, and the body may be using that microbiome activity for a reason, to break the cells down that are no longer needed. When someone is running multiple conflicts and healing programs, it makes sense that the microbes may appear in larger amounts because they need it for the work for that phase. This is what makes the fourth biological law so beautiful to me. It invites us to stop seeing bacteria as bad and to begin seeing them as helpers within a meaningful healing process. Instead of assuming microbes are causing the harm, we begin asking whether they may be participating in the cleanup, the breakdown, the restoration, and repair. That changes the emotional field completely. It takes out of panic, out of the constant urge to suppress everything, and it brings us back into the relationship with the body. We don't need to be obsessive about doing parasite cleanses. One of the important ideas here is that when there has been cell growth in the certain tissues, the microbes are understood to assist during the healing by helping break down and restore the extra tissue. Rather than being seen as the cause of the problem, they're seen as part of the body's response once the conflict has resolved. This perspective can take so much fear out of the symptoms because it helps people stop imagining that the body is under attack from within and start seeing that it may be moving through a purposeful biological process. This is also why I feel so strongly about being careful with antibiotics, parasite cleanses. If microbes are serving a role during healing, then wiping them out without understanding the phase a person is in is not a small thing. It disturbs the terrain, disrupts the work of the microbiome, and may interfere with what the body is trying to do. The deeper question is not how to kill everything off, but to understand what the body is doing and how to support it wisely. It's a completely different mindset and begins not only with adults, but with how we raise our children. Do we teach them to fear dirt, fear animals, fear every germ? Or do we let them build forts in the woods, dig in the mud, be around the dogs and the horses and the chickens, run barefoot on the earth and strengthen their terrain through the real contact with life? For me, this matters deeply because life is not sterile. Nature is not sterile. We're not meant to be separate from it. The body was designed to live in relationship with the microbes. The body depends on them. Our children, especially, need that living connection. When I think about the fourth biological law now, I think about cooperation, intelligence, restoration, the wisdom of nature. I think about how much suffering is created when people are taught to be terrified of the very process that may be helping them to heal. That does not mean becoming reckless or ignoring what is happening in the body. It simply means stepping out of automatic fear and asking better questions. Why is this here now? Why do I feel pain? Why is there inflammation? What may have been running? What healing phase might be underway? What is the body asking for? If this way of understanding the body is new to you, and you want to go deeper into the 5 biological laws and how conflicts and the healing programs affect the tissues, you can visit www.biologicalharmony.com. There is an introductory course on the 5 biological laws, as well as the signature course, Living in Biological Harmony, on how so many conflicts are created within relationships, how they affect the body, and how to begin understanding and downgrading them with more clarity. For so many people, this is where the real shift begins. Not simply learning the laws intellectually, but starting to see how our own life, your relationships, your shocks, your healing phases are all woven together. For me, this is where the health, the psychology, the childhood nature, and Germanic healing knowledge all meet. It comes back to trust, not blind trust, but a grounded trust that the body is meaningful, that nature is intelligent, and that when something is present, there is a reason for it. Maybe that is the deeper invitation of the 4th biological law, to stop fearing the microbial world so much, to stop trying to sterilize every inch of life and begin supporting the terrain instead, to reconnect with nature. Let children be in children, to remember that life has always existed in relationship with microbes. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope this gave you a more peaceful and meaningful way to think about microbes, the microbiome, and the body's relationship with healing. Because the more we understand the wisdom of the body, the less we need to live in fear of it.